Okay, we are on record today for a review and a hearing on the request for termination of parental rights on both parents. May I have the names of our participants, please?
Lee Heiss, lawyer regarding this item.
Nastasia Thomas, counsel for the department.
Michael McFarland representing mother. Sorry, I interrupted.
You're okay. Heather Deal, foster care supervisor from Family Community Services.
Please introduce yourself to the court.
Sarah Patterson, mother.
Michael Brooks, excuse me, Michael Brooks. I represent the father, Caleb Anderson, who is present on Zoom. Caleb?
Yep, I'm here, Caleb Anderson.
Thank you. For purposes of the request for termination of parental rights, this court typically consolidates the review testimony with the testimony on the petition for termination of parental rights, especially in cases such as this, where part of the request for evaluation of termination of parental rights is under the statute that suggests that it should be done after 183 days of services have been offered to a parent. Now would be the time to have any argument or objections on that point.
No objection, Your Honor.
No, none.
None.
Very good. Let's get to it.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was able to visit with the children in person, and they are in a licensed foster care home. They are, their needs are being met in this home. There are other children in the home. All of their medical, dental needs are being met. The children have friends in their childcare rooms that they look forward to seeing. They also, there are other children in the home. I would ask to reserve time for my best interest arguments after the initial review, but their needs are being met. They are participating in normal activities like Halloween, and they have structure in this home. They have challenge, they have nurture, they have developmentally appropriate toys, games, equipment for feeding and those kinds of things, and they're sleeping well, they're eating well. The little one has caught up to developmental milestones just incredibly. You'll remember that she even had broken bones within our case after she was in foster care. So to see her walking and following her sister and manipulating toys. She was even on like a little, kind of like a bicycle thing that turns and slides back and forth, and to watch her balance and her core strength, able to not fall off, was amazing. Compared to when she first came into this foster care home, she, would crawl kind of in a very awkward way. It wasn't very balanced, and so she's coming along with her ear tubes. She is doing better. They're staying in, less ear infections. I don't want to go over into the best interest factors yet, so I will conclude my report at that. Thank you.
Ms. Thomas.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask that Ms. Steele be sworn in, please.
Ms. Steele, come on up to our witness stand.
You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Ms. Steele.
Good afternoon.
Because you are new to our stand, I suppose, for this case, can you just please, for the record, inform the court your full name, your position, and where you work, and how you are familiar with this matter?
Yeah, so my name is Heather Deal. I'm the foster care supervisor at Family and Community Services. I was recently assigned the case, as the caseworker who has been assigned is no longer with the agency. So instead of bringing out a new worker, I myself am now assigned.
And as you stated that you were the supervisor prior to you being the direct worker, is that correct?
Correct.
And how are you familiar with the matter? What does that mean, being the supervisor of a case?
Yeah, so I have had ongoing knowledge of the case. I've participated in family team meetings. I've been present for the previous hearings. I have had input on all the court reports, the termination petition that's pending, the whole nature of the case I'm very familiar with.
And you provided a little memo little as in short memo for today's hearing, and also helped us by providing the foster care case contacts in chronological order for several months. Are there any updates or modifications to those documents that you submitted?
The only update I would have is in the memo, I had stated that Ms. Patterson had not provided a pay stub as of the date of the memo, and she has since done that.
For purposes of review, so since our last review hearing, which was August 29th, have there been any significant updates as it relates to compliance or benefit from the case service plan that the agency has reconsidered the children's goal of adoption and whether the petition for termination is still necessary?
There has been no changes. We are still recommending the termination petition that is pending.
And in the last review period, what efforts have been made to assist the parents, even though the goal for the children for permanency is adoption, as always, there's always a, I guess, concurrent effort to reunify. So what services in the last review period have been offered to the family?
In regards to Ms. Patterson, we've completed 2 home assessments. We've completed both forensic fluid drug screens, and she has continued to go to the Lenway Development Corporation. We've provided her with services such as McCullough Vargas, Catholic Charities, Catherine Cobb for domestic violence services. We've also provided transportation support in way of gas cards.
And you know that dad is incarcerated, but has there been continued communication? I believe that there were like monthly letters being sent and workbooks and things like that. Has that continued?
Yes, and we also did follow up on what services are available to him in prison. And the services that are available to him are substance abuse treatment, NA, AA, employment readiness, and academic support.
To the best of your knowledge, is he engaging in any of those services?
He is.
Do you happen to know his earliest release date or what is happening?
Yes, his earliest release date is August of 2024.
What are the current barriers to reunifying the children with Ms. Patterson?
Continued stable income, continued sobriety, continued engagement in mental health and substance abuse services.
Isn't it fair to say though, since I think for a couple of review periods now, mom has had decent compliance with our case service plan?
Yes.
And how has she not shown benefit from that case service plan?
So in regards to her participation with McCullough Vargas for the substance abuse services and therapy, that just began on October 12th of 2023. So that has been not very long of her participating in that service.
Were you presented by mom or anyone else a letter received or signed by Miss Peggy Moulter from McCullough Vargas as relates to mother?
I was, and I did speak with her yesterday.
Okay. Thank you. In your memo, you indicate that mom's housing is now appropriate for the little ones?
I had indicated that there was the corrections that were made. There was still a few remaining things that needed to be made. She did have 1 crib and 1 crib was partially set up, so we would ask, you know, that she would need 2 age appropriate beds for the children. And then she did indicate she was still working on obtaining a few more baby gates.
To the best of your knowledge, has Ms. Patterson completed any therapeutic interventions as relates to domestic violence?
She has not.
You know if that was being addressed in her individual therapy?
It is being addressed, but again, that service did just start on 10/12 of 2023. And she has previously been referred to Catherine Cobb for domestic violence services.
And as relates to the drug screens, you say that the report indicates that she continues to test positive for THC, and then we're not, I'm not gonna be able to pronounce that word, but I believe that it's a medication for opiate dependency.
It's Suboxone, yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, and that is something that you're aware that she's prescribed?
Yes, and she has indicated wanting to stop taking Suboxone and take Vivitrol, which is another Medicaid-assisted treatment.
And as it relates to the THC, is there any concern from the agency about that particular substance?
We would look into if that was something that's gonna be recommended by her provider, and then if there's no concern from her substance abuse provider on the use of THC, if we were looking at reunification, we would just ask to create a safety plan.
And as it relates to the parenting education, Ms. Patterson did complete that quite a while ago, is that correct?
Yes,
And when is the last time that she had parenting time that you're aware of?
her parenting time was suspended of May of this year.
And that was after she had completed the parenting courses or parenting classes, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Patterson was incarcerated, so this petition was filed originally in March of 2023 and then amended in April 2023, correct?
Yes,
At that time, Ms. Patterson was incarcerated, is that accurate?
yes, I believe so.
And once she was released from that stay, has she been reincarcerated or had any additional criminal charges?
No, she was released in June, I believe it was June 19th of this year that she was released.
And has she provided any financial support to the girls or asked if they need anything?
I don't believe so, no.
And have you had the opportunity to, prior to parenting time being suspended, have you had the opportunity to observe the children during parenting time?
Not me specifically, no. It was ordered at one point for her to receive the therapeutic visitation with Brene Moore, and that had then been terminated because of lack of participation.
In the children's current placement, they've been placed there for just a little over a year at this point, is that accurate?
Yes,
And that is not a family placement, correct?
it is not, no.
And since they've been placed in this licensed foster home, have their needs been met?
Yes,
And as it relates to medical attention, these were two very young children who had medical needs at the onset of the case. Can you just briefly summarize how their medical needs are being addressed in this placement?
yeah, so all of their needs are being met above and beyond in this placement. They, Kylie specifically requires follow-up with a pulmonary doctor, a cardiologist, and I believe an eye doctor, to ensure there's no further complications from the medical issues that she had at birth, and those have continued to be met. She's, as Ms. Heiss reported, she is now meeting milestones. Kenzie is also meeting all her milestones as well, and they do receive early on just to ensure all of their needs are being met.
And the current placement is willing to provide permanence to these children?
Yes.
Are there any significant relationships that these children have with extended family members?
I would say no, just because they haven't been around them. The court did order the maternal grandmother visit, which we did do. And I think even they could attest that the girls didn't really remember them.
And the children have been in care for nearly 2 years at this point, is that accurate?
Yes,
How old are they?
I believe they're both 2 right now, because I believe the one hasn't turned 3 yet, but yes.
So for nearly all of their lives, they've been in foster care. And they do have other siblings, correct? Half siblings?
They do,
But those half siblings have never been with these children, have they?
correct.
And what is the age difference between, are you aware of the age difference between these two little girls and their siblings?
I believe their siblings are quite older. I believe one of them is even 18.
Other than what is contained in your memo, in addition to the logs, I guess I do want to ask a summarizing question about the contact logs. There was some concern that the previous worker, Ms. Halsey, might not have been in communication with the parents as required by the case service plan or policy. After reviewing the logs, can you provide an overview or summary about whether she was providing adequate services to help this family with reunification?
Yeah, so after review of the logs that were provided, there was a significant amount of contacts for each month. There was definitely contact made with Ms. Patterson each month and Mr. Anderson. Services have been provided consistently throughout this case.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. I would move to admit the memo with the provided contact logs.
I have some documents that were provided in anticipation of the October 10th hearing as well.
Yes, Your Honor, and I do apologize. So Your Honor, there's a court report and drug screens that I would like the court to accept for that hearing. But the contact logs were not organized. They were not what we generally would expect to see from that were included in that. So I would not like the contact logs accepted. That is why Ms. Steele had provided updated ones.
Objections?
What are we objecting to or not objecting to, Your Honor?
The admission of the court report from October 3rd, the updated court report from today, drug screens, drug screen logs, and social work contact logs from the most recent packet of information that was sent. Being received into the record.
I have no objection to the October report, which I have and have reviewed. But I saw you lift up a sheaf of papers that looked to be about 2 inches thick, which I don't think I've seen. I don't know if there's anything in there that's relevant even, but I haven't seen it.
So Ms. Thomas she indicated that this set of documents, she'd like us to disregard. This giant set that you're talking.
Yes,
So that's not being proposed as evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor. There were a separate set of contact logs provided for today that I would like the court to accept.
And that's a very small set.
and that's the one I think I have, and I have no objection.
Okay.
I have the same and I have no objection.
I agree and have no objection.
Very good. They are received then. The 2 court reports, the drug test, the contact log, or the social work contact logs, and that log from the drug testing facility. Any questions, Mr. Brooks?
The caseworker before you, who is no longer with the agency, was she dismissed for failure to do her job, particularly with respect to this case?
She was not, she did resign.
Resign under good circumstances or less than good circumstances?
Objection, Your Honor, that's relevance to the question.
He's absolutely
I
right.
think it's relevant in the sense that if I find out she has resigned under pressure because she wasn't doing her job, doing what she was supposed to do with my client and the mother for that matter, I think it's relevant to this case as to whether or not they should have more time.
Your Honor, I would argue that it would be just within the last review period that it's relevant, because we're here for purposes of the review. And I know that he can cross-examine, but I did already ask that question to Ms. Steele as well. But I would ask that it be just considered for the last review period.
Her question wasn't as pointed as mine.
The objection is overruled. I do think it's relevant. You may proceed.
What's the answer, ma'am? Do you want me to repeat the question?
It was a mutual decision that she is no longer with the agency. It did not have to do specifically with this case, no. It had to deal with some personal mental health things that she was dealing with.
Was she doing her job on this case correctly?
Yes,
Was she contacting these people the way she should?
yes.
Well, then I don't understand your answers to some of the direct questions that were asked, which said that there was a time frame when they weren't being communicated with and contacted by your agency. Did I misunderstand you?
I did not say that. I didn't say there was a time that anybody wasn't contacted by our agency.
All right, then I misunderstood you. Are you saying she was not leaving in part because of her performance with this case?
Yes, she did not leave on part because of performance on this case, no.
That's all. Thank you.
Are you saying the mental health issues didn't affect this case? Is that what I'm hearing from you?
It did not, no.
Okay. When did you take over on this case? What date?
I believe it was October 13th.
So you did not prepare these court reports, correct?
The memo that was recently submitted, yes, I did.
Okay. That's the Anderson memo and attachments. Okay. But the other two court reports you did not prepare in October, correct?
The one for the October 10th hearing,
Correct.
I did not prepare, no, but I did sign off on it as a supervisor.
Okay. You're familiar with the Services Requirement Manual. That's the manual that DHHS complies with as far as foster care parents in cases of this nature, correct?
Yes,
Okay. If I were to tell you that under that section, that in that manual, under foster parent sharing information, that foster parents are held to the same confidentiality standards and laws in this policy, foster parents shall not release any information regarding the children's parents or confidential information regarding the children to the public on social media sites. Failure to comply with confidentiality laws could result in criminal prosecution and or adverse licensing action. Are you familiar with that section?
yes,
Are you aware that the foster parents in this case have posted the children to social media?
no, I am
Can I
not.
see your phone?
You just gotta, you want that one?
Let me approach the worker, Your Honor.
You may.
Well, first of all, let me ask you, you know what the children look like, correct?
Yes,
And are the foster parents in court here today?
yes,
Can you point them out for us?
sure,
Is that the gentleman wearing the pink shirt and the female wearing the black outfit?
yes.
Okay. And let me approach, Your Honor. A shot from Facebook. Can you tell us, can you identify any of these individuals in here?
Yes.
What individuals do we have here?
This is the foster father. I believe that's Kylie.
Well, let's not use the children's
Oh,
names
yes.
on
I
YouTube.
apologize.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, that is one of the children, and then that is their biological son.
Thank you. Let me have my client swipe to the next one.
Could we review it too?
Sure, I don't mind sharing it if I might pass it.
You just gotta swipe to the left and the next
Yeah.
picture will come up.
Brooke, you wish to see?
No,
I'll let my client swipe to the next one.
Just keep swiping to the left.
Is it appropriate for them would you say for foster parents to identify if a foster child is on or is hospitalized on a social media site?
I think it would depend on if there's a photo or not, or if there's any identifying information specifically.
Such as a specific hospital?
Or I was leaning more towards a specific name.
Okay, yeah.
Your Honor, I'm gonna object. Are these questions directed in this last review period?
Well, discovered by my client in this last review period, Your Honor. My client will testify to that.
Your picture doesn't have any dates, would you agree?
No. Hang on. Well-
The question I have, Mr. McFarland, is how does this help me understand whether or not your client's made progress on her case services plan?
Well, part of what we do in a termination trial is to look under the best interest factors about the placement. And if I believe that the placement is actively violating the rules that they have to live by, I think that's a factor to be considered for termination of parental rights and potential adoption down the road, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you.
The date?
I'll call my client with the date.
Well, then I object to this being outside the scope of this review period.
Well, Your Honor, I think it's important. It's not been introduced before, and if it is a violation, just recently discovered, I mean, I can call this client again after my client testifies, but to move things along, it's on social media, she's identified the individuals. I think it is pertinent and relevant.
I think we've got to let it play out. Ms. Heiss, considering it's for purposes of best interest factors, and we are at the termination trial. Thank you. I will overrule the objection. You may continue.
I may approach with another photo.
You may.
Any minute on this one?
There is indeed.
Can I have it?
I may show my client, or show the witness first, and then I'll share it.
Normally, I would see it before he approaches the witness.
I have no objection. This social media site, can you tell me what date is indicated on there?
October 23rd.
Now, I don't want you to reveal a name, but there is in the first sentence, there is a minor child's name identified, is that correct?
Yes,
Is that the minor child that these foster parents have in their care and custody through this case?
yes,
Does it also identify the age of the child?
it does.
So in the earlier report that I read, it appears as though it was unsure if my client was having parenting time with her other oldest three children. You would identify that she is, correct?
She had stated at the last hearing that she was, and then at the initial home assessment that took place, she had stated she was not getting them currently.
Were you present in interviewing her during that assessment?
I was.
If she were having visits with these kids, you are a mandatory reporter, correct?
Correct.
Would you report her if she was having supervised parenting time with her older children?
Not if the court had ordered her to have supervised parenting time.
Okay. How do you reconcile your agency that she can have contact with minor children, yet you're supporting termination of her parental rights on the children on this court case? How do you reconcile that?
Those children, I don't know anything about. I don't know even if they do have court-ordered supervised parenting time. I don't know what their situation looks like. So I can't attest to anything regarding them.
Okay. I think you testified house is appropriate, correct?
That is correct, yes.
You don't deny that my client has a job, correct?
I do not deny that, no.
You don't deny that she's attending McCullough Vargas, correct?
I do not.
Did you ask McCullough Vargas, or did you ask my client for a release so you could contact McCullough Vargas?
I did speak with McCullough Vargas yesterday.
Okay, and maybe to save time, if I can approach with a letter that I've shared with everybody to see if this is perhaps the content of your discussion with them and speed things along, if I might approach.
No objection.
I have no objection. I've reviewed this document.
I ask you to take a quick read of this.
I have received this.
You have received this, okay. And would you say that this letter accurately reflects your discussion with McCullough Vargas regarding the status of my client's progress?
It does. I would just emphasize that she did state that Ms. Patterson did just start services on October 12th.
And so it's addressing domestic violence, correct?
Correct.
And this letter does support my client having parenting time with her children. You would agree with that? That's the recommendation of McCullough Vargas, right?
That is what was wrote in the report, yes.
Okay. And you've utilized McCullough Vargas with other cases that you're on, correct?
Correct.
And you find them to be credible as you utilize them on other cases, correct?
Yes.
I'd like to have this marked and then submitted to the court if I might.
You may supply it. I don't think anyone has any objections.
No objection.
If I may.
Yes.
Thank you.
If the court does not terminate my client's parental rights today, would you support the position of McCullough? Would you support the position of McCullough Vargas for the resumption of my client's parenting time?
If the termination is dismissed, then yes, we would be requesting therapeutic visitation, but it is our recommendation to continue with the termination petition that's pending.
Can you explain to me why the children in this case are not having any time with the other three older siblings?
I know that that is something that was explored early in the case, and their father was actually assessed for placement of the two girls at one point. And it was not something that was appropriate. In regards to specific sibling visits, I don't have an answer for that.
We're aware that's one of the best interest factors is contact with other siblings, correct?
I am.
One moment. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Brooks, did you have any questions?
I do not, Your Honor. Thank you.
Ms. Hess?
Briefly, Your Honor. So this visit with the terminally ill grandmother took place in this review period. Is that correct?
It did.
Were you there?
I was.
Did you come into information about what stage her cancer is at?
She stated it was stage 1.
The children have been in family placement in the past, is that correct?
Yes,
And at least the older child.
they were both in that placement.
They were both KK, yeah, okay. It's hard to identify them because their initials are the same. So the older child, okay, and then they moved houses, okay. So would you say then that that family placement, they were removed from there, correct?
Yes,
About a year ago.
yes,
And at the end of that placement, there were broken bones on the baby.
correct.
So would you say then that those children have a bond with anyone in the mother's family?
I would not.
Do they have a bond with the siblings that they have lived with for a year?
Yes,
And can you tell me anything that you've observed?
yes, they are very bonded to the other siblings in their current placement. They follow them around, and they are definitely well bonded to them.
This is a licensed foster home, is that correct?
Yes.
So if there were any violations of their prudent parenting standard, that's something that there is a procedure in place to take care of, correct?
There is. I was not aware of anything on social media prior to right now, so I definitely will have a conversation with their licensing worker. And then that would then get transferred to our licensing department to where they would conduct a special evaluation if necessary.
Okay. So you have been in both households. You've been in Mrs. Mother's household, and you've also been in the foster care household, correct?
Yes.
Can you say there's an advantage to one over the other for the children?
Yes, I mean, there definitely is the advantage to the foster home. The foster home has age appropriate toys, age appropriate activities. They're able to provide the girls' needs above and beyond.
Has mom attended, or do you know if mom has received any medical information about the children in the last review period?
I don't know that off the top of my head. She would be provided a quarterly medical passport, which has that information. I just don't have the exact date of when she was provided that off the top of my head.
Thank you, nothing further.
All right, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you for your testimony, Mayor James. Do you have any other witnesses today, Ms. Thomas?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
Caleb Anderson,
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you please raise your right hand? You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. Anderson, you are aware of the seriousness of this hearing today, right?
I do. Or I am aware of it.
Is there anything you would like to share with the court?
All I would like to share with the court is, kind of like, you guys had said, not in the previous time, but the time before, that I'm kind of out of the way with being able to do anything that I'm supposed to be doing. But, as of right now in here, I am, like, I'm taking, ASAP, which is, abusive substance abuse classes. I'm taking domestic violence classes. I'm doing the employment readiness, and I'm going to AA and furthering my GED. So I'm am incarcerated right now until next year of August 28th of next year. But I am still trying to better my life in here, so I guess that's a step. Other than that, I don't have nothing to say other than that, really.
The mother of your children is seeking more time before the court makes a decision whether or not to terminate your parental rights. Do you understand that?
I do.
Do you support this lady in her petition to extend the time beyond today?
Yes, I do.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
No.
No.
All right, thank you for your testimony. Anyone else you'd like us to hear from, Mr. Brooks?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. McFarland?
My client, please, Your Honor.
All right. Come on up for witness stand, Ms. Patterson.
Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? There's a step there.
The court's permission, can I stay here and speak loud so I can easily use my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record.
Sarah Leanne Patterson.
How would you like me to address you today?
Sarah.
You expressed with me that you have, by the way, I should probably let the court know, Your Honor, I think I did ahead of time. I do have a witness in the courtroom. If they wish to sequester her before my client speaks, I Can I have her step out in the hall?
I have no objection to the witness being in here.
No objection to the
Thank you.
witness being in here.
Thank you. And you had a really large accomplishment in your life. What is that large accomplishment that you want everybody to know regarding sobriety?
About being clean and sober,
For how long now?
since I got out of jail this year. And I've been clean and sober off my other, I used to use before, and that sobriety was 6 years up to my grandfather passed away. So I've been clean all of this year.
So from January to the current time, you've not used any illegal controlled substances, is that correct?
Correct.
Why is that so important for the court to know?
Because my mom has cancer and I just want to get my kids back.
What stage cancer does she have?
Stage 2.
Okay. And how is your sobriety important to your children?
Very.
Well, tell us how.
I'm their mom. My sobriety is real important, and my kids are what keeps me going. I've never went this long without seeing my kids, talking to my kids, and I owe it to them to stay clean and sober.
What's your drug of choice?
Opiates.
What have you been doing since it's obviously been working since January of this year? And let's go just during this report period, because that's what's relevant today. What are the supports that you have in place?
I've been doing my counseling, my therapy. I've been doing my drug testing. I am on Suboxone. I have admitted that I can't do this on my own, that I need help. So I've reached out to my family. I stay open and honest with them even on my hard days. I learned that I have to talk it through. I have to open up and tell somebody.
Why don't you tell us what family members you reach out to?
So my mom, my sister, my brother, my nieces, my nephews, my grandma, my dad, my ex-husband, his wife, my kids.
And it sounds as though some of what you've been telling us sounds like it may be a page from AA or NA, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are you attending that?
No, I don't do NA or AA. Hannah was supposed to get me online stuff so I could, since I don't have no vehicle, I could attend it at home. And still yet to this day, I'm yet to see any sorts of actual online NA or AA group that's real, that's not fake, that's not a scam, that I can attend to and get credit for. So they have yet to provide me with that. I've asked several times, but since I'm on my 4th worker now, maybe she'll be able to get me something.
You've had 4 workers on your case to date, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. First one I never spoke to. Then we had Carissa, then along came Hannah, and now we have Heather.
And what made you go to McCullough Vargas now?
The process of getting it approved, you have to go through CMH, and I decided they've already dealt with me. I went to rehab there. After waiting through the process.
There being McCullough Vargas?
Yes, being McCullough Vargas. You have to get everything approved through CMH. I tried going through Catherine Cobb for the domestic, but they don't want me to be going to too many places because that's when appointments get missed and this and that. So it's easier there. And
Who is the they?
McCullough Vargas, excuse me.
Go ahead.
So at McCullough Vargas, I'm doing all my therapy, counseling, one-on-ones, domestic violence, everything will be with them.
And you mentioned community mental health. Are you
I
involved?
still do community mental health. I go to 3 different doctors. My mental health, I do for Adrian, psychological, whatever that is. I do my counseling and therapy with them. I also have my substance abuse doctor, and then I have McCullough Vargas.
Okay, substance abuse doctor, who is that?
Dr. Batra here in Adrian.
And how long have you been seeing Dr. Batra?
I believe it's been 3 months now, almost 4.
So that's not
Ever
just,
since I got out of jail.
so that's not within the just last.
No, it's been a while.
Okay. How does, and what does he prescribe for you?
Suboxone.
And I heard the testimony of Ms. Deal that you may be looking at another medication, is that correct?
Yes, it's the Vivitrol shot. And that's like, it lasts a month. I got it when I got out of jail this last time. I didn't know the jail offered it the first time, otherwise I would have got it then and not relapse. But it just it's a more successful rate. I kind of feel like the Suboxone is getting off one thing to another sort of thing, you know what I mean? So, and
No, I don't. So let's explain it because court's making a record and none of us can read your mind.
Suboxone is like, it's kind of like a drug in itself. Yes, it keeps you from getting high, but the effects and stuff is still, it's not where I want to be. I want to be on Vivitrol where you don't have to take a daily medication. You just get the shot once a month, and it was successful for me before. I didn't get high. I didn't think about it. So I just want to make sure that if the agency or anybody else isn't going to take the steps to help me stay clean, I'm going to make sure I take my own steps to stay clean and sober. So.
You have any particular beliefs as to whether your addiction is a lifetime issue you'll be battling, or at least addressing the rest of your life?
Yes and no. I mean, somewhat I believe it, somewhat I don't, because I've seen people that are addicts that have been clean 30, 40 years just because you make a mistake. I don't think it's fair that we get labeled for the rest of our lives.
Do you think you'll still need perhaps support the rest of your life as you do now?
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I can't say for sure.
Okay.
But I'm gonna continue it because now that my mom has cancer and stuff, you know, it's gonna. I just want to make sure that I continue my services.
What's your opinion on following the advice from here on out of professionals, let's say like McCullough Vargas?
That what they say does help, and that sometimes you think you can do it on your own, or you don't want to admit you have a problem. Like per se, before I didn't really believe I had a problem until I got clean, and then looking back, I see that there was significant problems, and I did play a role in it, and so now I'm just trying to fix it.
Do you believe your addiction had anything to do with this case where it is today?
Yes.
How so?
I believe coming into this from the beginning, since day one, when I was in this building right here upstairs with my probation officer, I signed over power of attorney to my sister that isn't even here, that didn't even have kids. And then CPS worker Chelsea Grant came and took my one child, because the youngest was still in ICU, took the oldest child from my sister before any sort of anything was put in place. So there was no legal, you can come take my kid. Legally, my child should have stayed with my daughter. So therefore, my daughter went with my one sister to my other sister who had him and the injuries came. And then I completed rehab, mind you. The whole time I was in rehab, I never once was present for our first court dates. They never made me come. That wasn't my fault because I'm in a facility, you know, where they run everything. I don't get to pick and choose when I go to
Oh,
court.
we're not trying to get the whole history.
Okay, well,
Let me just.
long story short, they never listened to me. Every time we've come to court, the last 6 months, our court date gets pushed back. I haven't seen my kids in May. I would reach out when my kids were with my sister. There's record of me, myself calling CPS and turning my sister in. And then everybody swept it under the bridge, our monthly meetings, just like now when we come to court, let's be real here, people. My foster worker shows up with the foster parents and their lawyers, and they all come in chum, buddy, we got money, and I'm just a drug addict that's gonna lose my kids. So that's where we're at. They don't help. You don't do anything to help. You don't give a damn about my kids and their well-being. Nobody has offered me help.
Let me rephrase my question, okay? My question was more on the lines of, do you see being an active addict, not that would at times during this case have affected your children?
Yeah.
Oh. Now, I had showed, before I lose my train of where I'm going with this, I had showed you some photos from your phone, correct?
Yes.
When did you discover those social media posts?
I discovered them the last time we had come to court. I had met with you. I believe it was.
Was this after the last time we were in
Yes,
court?
it was after the last time.
Thank you. Okay. And I understand you're still working at Clayton Corners gas station. Is that accurate?
Yes.
What is your pay right now?
14 an hour.
And the possibility for promotion is? Are you as high as you can go where you're at? Okay. What does your job prospects look like? Is that gonna be where you're gonna stay for
No, I
now?
plan on going back to Hilux. They just got back from the layoff and that's like a career, it's insurance, 401k, it's
Okay,
worked there before, so that's what I would like to do.
so what do you need to do to get back to high?
I'm just waiting for the HR manager to get a hold of me on Monday, cause they just came back from their layoff. They laid off all their workers due to the strike. So I'll go in there Monday, talk to her, and then probably start next week.
So you've already been in contact with an upgrade in your job, is that
Yes.
correct? And you know what the potential pay is on that?
I believe it's like 18.73 an hour or something.
And you said there were benefits?
Yes, there's 401k, there's insurance.
Does that insurance include insurance benefit for the minor children? if they're-
Absolutely it would. I would do it for all 6 of my children.
And you've worked there before, so you're familiar with that,
Yes,
correct?
absolutely.
Okay. And did you leave it under anything but good terms? Do you, for example, do you think there's some reason they're not gonna hire you?
Yes, when I left there, before it was when COVID first struck and they laid everybody off and then
Okay.
I had the baby and whatnot.
Thank you. So I'm looking into the best interest factors as far as your stability. The house, rent, lease, own, what's the status?
It's Caleb's dad owns the house.
And you've been there for a while now, correct? So yes?
Yes, sorry.
Any indications from anybody that you will not be staying there, that you're gonna be evicted or leave anytime soon?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Tell us, how do we know that? What's the situation there that makes you believe
The
that?
situation there is Caleb's dad
Well,
is,
first of all, let's wait till I finish my question,
Sorry.
okay? So how do we know, tell us how we know that this is gonna be permanency for you, okay, and the children if returned?
I don't know how to tell you other than he owns the house and we're not going nowhere. I mean,
Well, what arrangements do you have with them?
pretty much once I go back to work at Hilux, my plan is to buy the house from his dad. I will do it on like a land contract, so I don't plan on leaving anytime soon from there.
Are you paying the utilities and everything necessary where you're living now?
I will be, yes, we're starting the transitional process over,
Okay.
so.
And one of the other important factors under the best interest factor are the bond the children in this case have with you.
Mhm.
And we don't want to use first names, but give us each child's initials and how you would describe your
Our
bond. I know,
initials are the same.
well, how about young and old? Okay, so
K1 and K2.
how about that? Sure, K1, how about being the firstborn, okay?
Well, okay, so with K2, my bond with her, I mean, it's honestly, it's hard to say because I haven't seen him since the 1st of May. I mean,
Well, how about since the 1st of May?
my bond before was mom, and there's just, I don't know how to describe it. It's unexplainable. It's that pure love, that real love, that true love, that forever love. Like, she doesn't look at me as a drug addict or see me the way you people sees me. She sees me. I'm her mom, and she just loves me. She always runs up to me. And then the youngest one, there's a bond really with her and I, because she was born so early and stuff. I didn't get to hold her until she was like 5 months old. And there's the same bond, but yeah, it's not the same as it is with my oldest because she's younger and she didn't get to see me like my older one did. My older one lived with me and she was with me for almost the first year of her life, my oldest was. So, and now that I haven't seen them in so long, I honestly feel like, are they gonna remember me?
You've seen McCullough Vargas' recommendation that your parenting time be resumed, which would mean that your parental rights not be terminated. Would you be willing to start a therapeutic visitation with these kids? Visitation with a therapist to get things moving on track?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat.
Is there anything that you would not support doing to have parenting time with your kids?
I would do anything to be able to see my kids right now.
Basically, any hoops that they ask you,
Anything,
any hoops they would ask you to jump through, you would. Is that what I'm hearing?
absolutely.
Your parenting ability. Yes, that would include your ability to prepare meals. What is your ability to prepare and purchase adequate meals for the kids?
I'm able to, and I've done it before. I've not always been in this situation. I do have 4 other children. My oldest is 19. I was the one that raised my children, you know what I mean? Like their whole lives.
You know the difference between healthy and unhealthy meals.
Yes.
Tell us.
Well, unhealthy, I would describe as like McDonald's or something like that, because it's just processed food. Healthy would be, you know, your meat, your vegetables, milk.
And parenting ability would also include daycare and schooling. What would your plans be if the court did not terminate your parental rights? As far as getting back into the reunification as soon as possible, what have you looked into or what's available for?
I have been looking into some stuff. As far as daycares and stuff go, I do have a couple people that are like, I don't know if they're foster care, but they are of, you know, like they have their first aid, and if they would obviously have to be approved background wise by the company to be able to watch them. But yes, I do have things I've been exploring and checking into.
What school district do you live in?
I live in Hudson, Addison, and it's actually Addison School District, but it's Hudson and Addison schools.
Under the parenting ability, are there any needs of these children that you cannot meet?
No.
Okay. Where do you see the advantage of your home over the foster care parent's home?
Because they would be with me, their family.
Okay. I know there's been testimony about safeness in other homes. Is your home safe so children wouldn't get injured?
Yes.
How so?
Well, it's been approved. I've since then went and got the baby gates, had them installed and put up. The crib's been installed and put up. I have age appropriate toys as well and games and stuff too, so.
At one point in this case, I'm going down the visitation issue right now, the parenting time. You did not have a consistent history, you would agree, at some point in this case, correct?
Absolutely.
How do we know you've changed, that you continue to have a consistent parenting time history if this court did not terminate your parental rights?
Well, before I didn't admit that I had a problem. I didn't really, I guess I was in denial, honestly. I didn't see that, like I was just mad and angry. And then honestly, going this long without any communication other than seeing what I see on Facebook, it really does, like, it affects you. Finding out your mom has terminal illness, it's gotta be now. I don't wanna be without my kids. I don't want my kids to grow up, and I don't want them to grow up and be like, well, mom, how come you got to be with these 4, but you couldn't be with us?
What is your position about the kids that are in this case? Do they have a bond with the older children?
I would agree that they don't, but that's not on the lack of my children or my fault. That would be on the lack of the state and the court.
And you consistently asked
I have consistently asked in state
that these older children have a bond with the kids, the 2 kids in this case, correct?
Absolutely. My daughter, matter of fact, she's 14. She wrote a letter to Kenzie and Kylie, well, excuse me, to their 4 little sisters. So it does affect them.
Do you know if,
I don't know if they got it.
I was just gonna ask.
My mom took it when she went to her visit.
Well, I know another factor we have to look at for the totality of this case, under the best interest factors, are the children's well-being while in care. So they've been in 2 different foster care placements, correct?
Yes.
how would you say their well-being while in care was in the first foster care placement?
There was a lot of issues, several issues. I mean, for God's sakes, my youngest ended up with broken ribs and broken bones under the care of the state. But they got taken for me for what?
For what?
Yeah, because they weren't safe, but they're not safe with the state either. I mean, none of my kids to this day, my oldest one has never got a broken bone under my watch. The allegations against me were not even true. Yes, the substance problem was an issue. I admit that now, and I see that that was way out of hand, and
I see now you're also, through McCullough Vargas, you're addressing domestic violence as a victim, correct?
yes,
That's something different in your opinion, correct?
yeah.
Why the change and what is the change? First, why the change?
The change, what do you mean by the change?
Well, why you believe that now you're accepting that you've been a victim of domestic violence?
Because before I didn't see as, I didn't know how toxic, I guess you could say, me and the father were. And I don't know, deep down, I guess I just wanted to be loved or thought everything would get better. And I see now, looking back, that it was toxic. It was, you know, it's not okay to put your hands on somebody. It's not okay to beat them up, you know, and break their stuff. It's not, it's not the type of life I want to live. I don't want it for my kids. I don't want it for me. And I've decided I'm not gonna settle for less anymore in life. You only get one life, and I've made a mockery of mine. We all know. I mean, we're here, but it's never too late. Never. So, and I would never give up on my kids ever.
Are you comfortable with your therapist over at McCullough Vargas?
Absolutely, I love her.
If shortly down the road, because we're looking at a brief time frame when we deal with children's lives, if this court didn't order you to go to McCullough Vargas, would you still do that anyway?
Absolutely,
Why?
because it helps me. It's what I need. I need to be able to. Everybody has problems that go on in life, you know what I mean? And now that I'm still adjusting to the clean life and this and that, I just want the best life I can have, I guess. I messed up a lot and I got a lot to make up for, but it can be done and I'm gonna do it.
My understanding is that the current placement for the children are not biological relatives. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And I'm not sure that there are any particular ethnic or cultural considerations that we need to take into account with your family, is there?
No.
Do any of these kids have any special needs, these two children that you're aware of that you would need to address?
Not that I'm aware of, but I only gotten one medical report on the two girls since I believe it was, I'd have to check my email who sent it, but since we went to court this last time beforehand, when I got out of jail, Hannah quit all contact with me. She didn't reach out to me. She didn't send me nothing.
So in this last reporting period, have you received any medical reports?
One, yes.
Any progress regarding your school?
I'm sorry, what?
No, actually, they're not in school, correct?
No, they're not. They're
Yeah,
too-
so any preschool progress or anything like that?
It didn't really say. It's always kind of vague, you know, it just,
When we jump to your case service plan, give me a moment here. The moment, Your Honor, I'm pulling this up as fast as I can. Now, do you have any concern with, your understanding is that this foster family wishes to adopt the kids, right?
yes.
Do you have any concern with these parents, foster parents, adopting the children?
No,
Do you have concern though with them sharing private information? Is that correct?
yes.
Do you wish to have that explored through the worker? She indicates she would.
Yes.
Why is
I
that?
just-
Why is that important?
It is important to me because I think that if I am to be expected to be held up to my standard of rules and regulations of the parent, that everybody in this particular party case situation, whether it be from the judge on down, has rules and regulations that they need to follow, and I think that everybody needs to start following them. Be held accountable just as well as I need to be. And I think that we're on our fourth worker that kind of says something about the company.
Who notified you that Ms. Halsey was no longer on the case?
It was Heather sent me a text, the same day I had my appointment with you, right after I left your office.
Okay.
And then I also seen Hannah while I went to drug test this last time. She was getting fingerprinted while I went into drug test.
Now, moment, Your Honor, I had the case service plan here and it eluding me. We just don't. Okay, I asked for just a 5-minute recess while I could pull that case service plan up. I'm having some difficulty accessing that right now. I just had it down here, but I'm having some difficulty. Unless the worker has perhaps a paper copy handy and I can speed things up real fast. I think she might.
I don't have a copy handy either at the moment.
Thought it was on my termination petition, but I didn't see it. So that's really.
I have a feeling that as soon as we get up, you're gonna find. So why don't you just take another minute and see.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Is that what you want?
If you attach any of the.
Mr. Brooks has come through with a paper copy.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Going to your case service plan, how would you rate yourself with actively participating in substance abuse treatment as recommended?
I would say I'm complying and doing it.
I suspect that the agency is going to argue too little, too late.
Right.
What's your, we've discussed that, correct?
Yes, we discuss it every time.
What's your opinion of that?
Well, my opinion is when it comes to my children and my rights, and it's never too late. I will fight for my kids till the day I die. It's just, I do agree that I didn't take things very, I'm gonna say seriously or partake or participate, but I don't think necessarily neither did my caseworker or none of, like, and I kind of have felt this whole time when I would reach out and try to express, like, before my youngest got hurt, for example, I did try to express my knowledge of things I had found out that were going on in the home. I had tried to tell that to the second worker. But at our family meetings, she would come, of course, during my visitation. Her and my sister would sit there chit chat and chum buddy about getting 2-inch long nails, and I'd get ignored. And it's kind of been a pattern of where everybody just dismisses Sarah, dismiss me. And I will admit, I did get frustrated, and I did, like any, I reached out and I relapsed. But then I just had a talk with a real good friend of mine, and he told me, like, you need to get it together, fight for your kids. Like, if they're just gonna keep dismissing you, do what you're supposed to be doing and make yourself heard. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Do you agree that we've already covered your participation in domestic violence and following recommendations?
Yes.
What are the recommendations for you under domestic violence? Let's cover that.
To go to counseling, I believe it is.
Okay. Have you already discussed in as much detail as you think you need what you're learning from domestic violence, or is
Yes.
there anything more?
I learned about being, codependent, and I've learned a lot. So,
Well, you say a lot, but because we're making a record, we don't know what a lot means.
I've learned about like codependency. I learned Caleb, I was real codependent on him. The the toxic mix between us, and I learned that sometimes in your, your addiction, you think you can do it on your own. Because you don't want to reach out because of the belittling, I guess you could say, people, I mean, let's be real, you guys look at me like I'm just an addict and you're this, that, and the other. So like psychologically, it just kind of did affect me for a while, but now I don't know, I've learned a lot.
You say you're mentally stronger now.
Yes, even though I'm crying today, but I'm just sad, I miss my kids.
Does this put you in a better position to raise children, your mental strength that you just?
Yes.
How so?
I've learned that you always gotta put your kids first, and mentally, like, we're all human. Everybody, has issues. Nobody's perfect. So it's okay to say, reach out to a counselor or something and admit like, hey, I need help. I need somebody to talk to. And it doesn't make you any less of a person by doing this stuff.
Did you get off your probation period in this reporting period?
That was back in May.
Okay, so, but I think we covered your drug screens, that they're negative for any illegal substances, correct?
Yes.
Marijuana, I know you're testing positive for THC.
Yes.
An issue that the court may consider is how much do you smoke, and would it affect your ability to raise children if you still used if they were returned to you? So why don't we first of all cover how much and when do you smoke?
I do smoke.
Or use,
I do smoke daily, but you and I did have our conversation when we met about what you just said, so I have since thought about it and when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, drugs are my kids. I want my kids, so if that means I've got to stop smoking weed to be able to be with my kids and have them back, then that's what I'm gonna do. So, and it will show up in my drug testing, because the levels they don't test for the exact levels, so it'll be like a couple more tests before it's out of my system.
So you have stopped using, is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
I was not aware of that. When did you stop?
I'm not gonna lie, after our meeting, we met October 17th, you and I met, so it was like 2 days later.
Okay.
And I've been functioning fine without it, so.
Have you discussed this with McCullough Vargas?
Yes,
And do they support your position?
yes, they do, but they also support marijuana because it's, legal, it's to them, it's like drinking, but they do understand that, sometimes people look at it as marijuana as like the gateway drug or whatever. So they support it and agree that it's a good decision to quit.
So if the court were to direct you to be drug tested today, would you willingly do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would be in your system today?
There would still be the marijuana, and then there would be my Suboxones.
You've had a psychological evaluation, we know that,
Yes.
correct? At this point in time, do you believe that you're doing everything that's required per that psychological evaluation?
Absolutely.
Pay bills in a timely manner. That's also part of your case service plan. Under E, are there any bills that are not paid at this point, if they are delinquent and not paid? I know.
No, sorry.
Okay. It also says that going to ensure that all utilities are working. Gas, water, electric, are all these things working?
Absolutely.
Are you alcohol free?
Yes.
During this last reporting period, have you been involved in any criminal activity?
Absolutely not.
Have you been arrested even?
Absolutely not.
I know Ms. Deal has made contact with you during this last reporting period.
Yes.
Did you also attempt to reach out to Ms. Halsey? Because you're supposed to initiate, that means reach out for contact with the workers. Did you do that during this?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I have plenty of messages to show that. I reached out to her all the time.
What's your method of reaching out to them?
Normally text message or I'll call, and if they don't answer, I'll just shoot a text and be like, hey.
I'm not going to, but if I were to ask you to pull up all of your text and all of your phone call history, log history, that would support that, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe anybody's gonna question that, but if so. Has there been any change in your life circumstances that you would have had to have, in this last reporting period, notify your worker within 24 hours?
No. Oh, and I did want to, they said earlier that I've never reached out to ask about like what my kids need, but that's not true.
Tell us about that.
Because I do and have supplied, like Hannah, I've asked several times about the clothing size because I would like to know like snacks and stuff, like, because I have a Sam's Club membership, but certain things, food wise, and she would never respond back, and I do have the messages to support that.
Well, let me
So-
ask you, if they were to reach out for you right now for clothing or anything else necessary for your kids, would you willingly supply anything?
Oh God, you have no idea how much stuff I have for these girls. Yes, I would. I'd love to be able to at least feel like I'm part of their life somehow.
Has Ms. Deal even reached out to you and said, would you?
No.
Let me just finish, reached out to you and said, is there any way that you can help support the children?
Nope.
What have you saved up for these kids?
I've got clothes, I've got toys. I don't have any snacks or anything because I did have stuff like that, but then I donated it to a church because we postponed the court date, so I didn't want them to expire and I wanted somebody to get use out of them. All sorts of stuff, toys, clothes. Me and my daughter started a scrapbook for them we're making.
Do you think that any medical or other appointments for your children you weren't notified about in this last reporting period that the agency is supposed to do under their obligations?
I was not notified of any appointments in this last reporting period. I know this isn't part of the last reporting period, but I just want to get this out on record. There has been parts where we were going to visit at the DHS and I was required to text Miss Hannah in the morning, like an hour before, and then I had to show up at the DHS an hour prior to my visit and go in and have the secretary, whoever state I was there. But there had been a couple of times that and I have documentation and proof for everything, that my appointments had been canceled prior to like our 15-minute window or the time I was supposed to be there. They had been canceled because I had texted her at 7:31, not 7:33. Like there's been situations like that happened several times at both the DHS and when I was going to the other place over at on 223 there, the counseling place.
I know you and I have met and we prepared for this. Is there anything that I'm leaving out or that you wish to add that I haven't questioned you about that we covered, or maybe something that I didn't cover that you think is important for this court to know?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything. I just want the courts to know that I do take full responsibility for the actions and stuff that have caused my children to be where they are today. And I just ask that you really not to give up and let me show you that I can do this and that I am willing to do this, and at least owe it to my kids. My kids deserve to know who their family is. And I understand this family takes care of them and I understand they got money, but I ask you not to punish me and hold that against me because they have a nicer house than me, that they're more established to take care of my children. Because how dare you say that?
Well, let me ask you that. If the goal were to change for if the goal were to change for reunification with your current job, would you be able to supply food and the other necessities for the children?
Yes.
Do you have reliable transportation?
Yes.
Okay, do you have car insurance?
No, I don't have a car, but that's the same matter, Mr. McFarland, as I don't have a car, but yet they gave the kids to my sister that ain't even got a driver's license.
I was gonna cover that.
How can we hold that against me?
I was gonna cover that, okay? You don't have a vehicle, can you tell us how you get places?
I get places by my ex-husband's wife, my kid's stepmom, my father-in-law, my sister.
And do you have a support system that's willing and able to assist with any transportation if returned?
Oh, absolutely.
What's the barrier for you not driving?
I just don't have a car right now. I have a license and I just was saving up and then I spent, money on repairs to fix things at the house that needed to be repaired to get the kids back, so.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Brooks?
Thank you, no.
Ms. Heiss?
No questions.
Thank you for your testimony. You may return to your seat. Anyone else?
Let me consult with my client. I don't believe we need that, so. No further witnesses, Your Honor.
No witnesses, thank you.
10 minutes. Do you want to do your closings now, or do we want to adjourn to a different date?
I'd like to close now.
Well, I would like to adjourn to another date, but that's gonna be at the court's discretion.
Well, there's more to it than closing statements, isn't there, Your Honor?
I would say quite a bit more.
Yeah. I don't think we've got time to get this thing. If we had time to wrap it up, I'd say let's wrap it up, but we don't.
That was kind of where I was going. I know the court's going to give us an opinion unless it would have a written opinion, but
Your Honor, may I request that closings be due in writing in 7 days? And then this court can issue a written opinion. We've adjourned this petition has been pending since March.
Okay. Why don't you give me any comments you have now, and if you want to give me closings in writing, then do that within 7 days. But I don't think our public defenders are gonna wanna necessarily take the time to do written closings, frankly, so if you do, great, but if there's any comments that you'd like to make now, I'm open to that, and taking it all under advisement and issuing a written opinion, which will probably take some time, but I'm willing to do it.
I can do it quite easily. My client supports the mother and what she's told this court. I support the mother and what she's trying to get done here, which is more time to prove she's worthy of having her children back. And I have some questions about what are we missing here about how the agency that was handling this let these people down. I'm not saying they did, I'm saying there's something there that I'm missing. I don't know what it is, but I suspect there was some times when services should be provided when maybe they weren't. And this lady was in a position and in an attitude when she wanted them. If that's accurate, I'd like to see her get some more time to prove her commitment. Thank you.
Comments, Mr. Fowler?
well, following through on what Mr. Brooks is saying, nobody's is saying it's not true that there have been four workers on this case. The latest one is just taken over on this case. The child in foster placement severely injured while in the first foster placement. Now the second placement is violating the rules of confidentiality in broadcasting the children's pictures, names on social media. Where's the agency on this, Your Honor? They're not following through. We can hear the lip service that they're following through, but they're not. It's not normal, I don't think, for 4 different workers on a case like this. But I think the most important is my client is not the same person when she entered this case. She's had relapses, not been in a frame of mind to get her kids back. At times, she's not been a pleasant person. She'll admit that. I'm not here to be her friend, I'm here to be her attorney. But she's spoken with, I think, the composure and the integrity and the determination, you might say grit, to have her kids back. We have a letter written by Peggy Moulter, MALPC CCTP DP-C, clinical director. Date signed, signing Melissa Vargas also, McCullough Vargas. I don't think it's better late than never. I don't think that's where it is. I think my client's been progressing steadily throughout this entire period since January, when she's maintained her sobriety. It was news to me that she's taken to heart not to use marijuana. She's able to elaborate what she's learned through the various parts of her case service plan. She has housing. She has a method to get the kids to and from places. It's transportation. She's following what's required under the psychological. She's recognizes that domestic violence is not for her children in a safe place. It jeopardizes them as well as her. I believe that this is a case where a little more time, we are ready to reintegrate mother and the children together. I take it that there is probably going to be an investigation on the foster parents, which is unfortunate. I believe they probably weren't informed that they weren't supposed to do it, because my client does not believe it, that they're bad people, that they did this intentionally, but it's part of the system that the kids are in, that they were not advised on what to do. And that's the failing there. My client's not going to say that she hasn't failed, but she wants to continue with the chance for reunification, which I think can be done in a very short period of time. We would like the court to reinstate therapeutic visitation immediately, Your Honor. I suspect that if we come back here and they hear the court's closing arguments, my client's still going to be enrolled in the services of McCullough Vargas. She's still going to have the same supports. She may actually have a land contract, so she would probably have a job with better pay, more benefits. But what she has right now suffices. And we see these ads all over the place for foster parents, billboards. It says we're not looking for perfection, we're looking for good parents. And I think my parent has reached that. I don't think the agency has met its burden. Not finding any, I have nothing bad to say about this worker, Your Honor. I'm very familiar with her. My client doesn't have anything to say bad about her, but I think rather we're focusing on the positives for my client and under the best interest factors, which I've elaborated, I think it's in the best interest of the children. Don't even have children, and that's, I don't know why, throughout this entire case with their older siblings. So for all those reasons and others which the court has heard, that's our case.
Thank you. Ladies? Any comments today, or will you be submitting them by, in writing?
Writing for me, Your Honor.
I will submit in writing.
Very well. As it relates to the review, I would like to say that I do think that proper notice was issued, that there have been reasonable efforts towards the goal of adoption and the alternative goal of reunification, and that was demonstrated by the testimony we had today and the documents that were received as part of today's regular review. I will be issuing an order indicating that the review was conducted successfully today, and our next review will be Friday, January 26th at 10. To keep the case on track. Ms. Heiss is in satisfaction of her obligations as well. Thank you. Thank you to all of our advocates. All prior orders will remain in full force and effect. pending the resolution of the request for termination. And that would include, unfortunately, the suspension of parenting time. I have to do my analysis and give you an answer on that before I can answer you on the parenting time question. Also, the children will remain in their placement that is the safest and least restrictive under the circumstances. Unless there's any questions, that is all for today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
Should my client wait for an order for the return or that be mailed to her?
That will be mailed to her. I don't think I'll have